Hi, my name is Samuel, and along with my colleagues Cora, Isaac, and Lydia, are the developers of the application Bish Bash Dosh. So what is Bish Bash Dosh, and why did we develop it? Bish Bash Dosh aims to keep their family happy by helping parents get chores done and children earning rewards for their hard work. Bish Bash Dosh is an application where parents, guardians can post chores/jobs that need to be done around the home for an amount. The child then gets the option of choosing whether or not to pick up or not to pick up their job. Should they choose to pick it up, it then becomes unavailable for others to pick up. On completion of the task, the child will alert the parent through the app to let them know that they have finished the job. The parent will then inspect the job and has the option of either approving or rejecting the job done. Should the parent approve of the job, the child's balance will update to reflect the new amount. The reason why we developed the application Bish Bash Dosh is because we wanted to produce a product that could be utilized by the masses for our final project. And now to pass you on to my colleagues Isaac and Lydia, who will be talking to you about the front end of our project. They'll be talking about the technologies and why we use them, as well as an application demo and code walkthrough.
Hi there, I'm Isaac Maltby, and I'd like to talk to you about the front-end technologies used within our app, Bish Bash Dosh. The technologies that we used to develop the app included React in order to create a single-page application. We also used many of the libraries contained within that, including useState, useContext, and various other things. Additionally, we used Axios in order to access our database and backend functionality. We also use Firebase. We use this to keep our password information in a separate database from everything else with regard to our users, just as an extra security feature. And finally, we used VS Code to develop and write our code, as well as GitHub, obviously.
Hello, my name is Lydia Wallace and I was working on the front end of Bish Bash Dosh. So now I'll take you on a hopefully quick demo of this app. The landing page is a login page where you also have the option to sign up. Initially, a parent will sign up and create a family, and later they will add other members of the family so that the family IDs are linked. This password field creates a Firebase Authentication. And there are various constraints on this which are enforced as such. But I already have an account, so I will show you now a parent's view. They have a dashboard like this, which is linked up here, and the option to log out. We store some information in local storage and also have a Firebase Authentication. Both of those things are cleared when you log out. Parent has the option to invite new members, so they can invite their children and co-parent as such, choosing a role, parent or child, and choosing an email, and then sending the invite. Once they have sent that invite, that will populate an email as this one does, which has got a URL with 2 query parameters, the name, which has some logic to remove the spaces just so it doesn't break the URL, and the email address. When the new user clicks on this, they get sent to this sign up form, which differs from the first because this user is going to be linked to the original family ID, so their backend on our part is already created, and this is about creating the Firebase Authentication. So they can edit their name, which will update the backend, and they can also create their password, and then it will bump them to the dashboard, which is linked to the family ID. Lovely. So I've invited my members, and now I can see what children I have. In the future, this will be links to all of my children's profiles so I can manage their accounts and cash in any rewards and things like that. Here are a list of chores that exist with all their different statuses and the amount of reward. I can edit these, changing their status. I can't change them between taken and pending because those are functions of the child account, but I can see if those are selected and I can change them to available or unavailable, which will remove the current user ID. I can also delete any chores that I feel I don't want to be done anymore. And I can view any chores which are pending approval. So these are chores that have been completed by children, and I have the option to accept. So I'm going to accept that they have fed the baby, but I don't think that they have tidied their room. So you'll see that this is going to be repopulated in the child's account when we switch back to that. So if I log out now and go to the child's account, here, tidy your room is back in here. And when I've completed this, I can click done. That will send it back to the parent to approve. Here you can see just a static value for balance, which in the future will be populated by our backend, and the option to cash in any balance that we have accrued, which again, in the future will be sending a request to the parent. So as well as the chores that I have got assigned to myself, which I can mark as done, find a new chore, hooray, this is available and I'm going to take it on. And it is now available for me to say that I've completed. Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, Lydia. And now I'll be talking about the back end of our application. I'll be giving a general overview about the technologies we used and why, before passing on to my colleague Cora, who will be given a live demo and a code walkthrough. Node.js was the server environment that the group decided to go with. This was because we are all familiar with Node.js, and therefore we felt that we would be able to maximize our developing time by using a technology we were already familiar with instead of learning a new technology. This was alongside the points that are on the slide. The web application framework that the group decided to go with was Express.js. This was again due to our familiarity with Express, as well as it being the industry standard. The group decided to go with MySQL as the database for the application. MongoDB was considered. This was because MySQL has difficulty scaling, but ultimately we went with MySQL as there was relational data, so it made it the logical choice. Firebase was used in our password authentication process as it was a simple and easy way to keep our passwords secure. And that's me done. I'd like to pass you on over to Cora, who will now go through the demo and code walkthrough.
Hi, my name is Cora, and together with my teammates, I helped create our React app called Bish Bash Dosh. For the backend walkthrough, let's start with the way we structured our database. After some debate, we initially came up with a very complex schema. As you can see here, it involved way more tables than we ended up using, but we liked the practice of seeing how a more robust application would look like. In the end, we ended up stripping it down to just 3 main tables, which would be sufficient for our MVP. That involved a family table, which was the main one because it held the primary key that ended up being a foreign key for both the chores table and the users table. Next, let's have a look at the actual code. Because we wanted to implement test-driven development, we first needed to create 2 sets of environmental variables so we could use them separately for the actual database that the app was going to use and the test database. That leads us to package.json, where we can look at the dev dependencies. For testing, we used Chai, Mocha, and Supertest. And then the other dependencies that our application uses include CORS, which is used as a middleware across the app, so it can facilitate the front-end communication through Axios. And we've got Express for the actual server creation, and MySQL to communicate, to send queries to the database. If we have a look at the tests, you can see that we used before each and after each hooks to make sure that the tests wouldn't affect each other as they run. So before each test, we made sure to create the database, the test database, and populate it with the relevant tables. And then after each test, we would delete anything that we had created in the tables for that test, and then eventually close the database so that everything could work smoothly. In terms of controllers, we used request body and request parameters to get the values that we needed to make our queries. And then within our queries, we made sure to not immediately use these values as part of the SQL string to protect against SQL injection. So we ended up just using a second argument in the query method where we passed all of our relevant variables as an array. Finally, we use our controllers in our app.js file, where we made sure to use family ID as a path parameter, just to keep each family separated from the other existing one, so they don't end up having another family's members and chores. Also, a quick note, ideally we'd want to separate or to put our controllers into separate routes just to keep the code base a bit cleaner and a bit better organized. And that's it for the backend code walkthrough. A quick word on how we work together as a team. Our software development process involved a good amount of planning, as you can imagine. We used Notion for that, which is an excellent project management tool. We started off by deciding on our MVP features, and then we moved on to visualizing those in wireframes, accounting for all the user stories that we could come up with. We used Excalidraw for that. Then we also put a Kanban board in our Notion board to help us keep track of our tasks. And we made sure to document our processes and resources as best as possible. For our day-to-day work, we try to do regular stand-ups every few days. And then we did mob and pair programming, especially when linking the front end to the back end. We needed to work together more than we did prior to that bit. We also did our best to do at least asynchronous updates on individual progress using Slack, which meant whenever one of us finished a bit or a part of our task, we would update the whole group so everyone knew where we were at. And in addition to that, we used GitHub to make sure everyone had access to the latest version of our code. Specifically for Git, we used frequent commits with helpful messages. We used individual branches, and then we created more branches for new issues that we needed to deal with specifically, separately, and then we merged that into the main branch. And about merges, we made sure to protect the main branch so no one could push without at least one review.
We did have a few challenges while we were developing this app, mostly to do with having the time to be able to work together, especially code together, with four of us having different schedules. We tried to get around this as best we can by communicating through channels like Slack and by ensuring that any code was reviewed before it was pulled to the main branches in Git. With the time constraints that we had on us, we prioritized the closer that we got to the deadline, completing core components to a good standard rather than spreading us any thinner. And with any blockers that we encountered along the way, we reached out for peer support and for tutor support.
Isaac Mulby here again. I just wanted to do one quick last piece to say a absolutely massive thank you to the team developing Bish Bash Dosh. Lydia, Cora, Sam have all been amazing. Lydia, you're absolute rock. Your ability in coding is phenomenal. Cora, your organization, your coding is amazing. Sam, you're a fantastic guy, and thank you all for your help and support. Also, obviously give a massive shout out to all the team at Manchester Codes for allowing us to develop the skills that we've been able to put on show here for you, and the rest of our colleagues in the January 2022 cohort. Thanks a lot to everybody involved.